My friends, let us begin with the greatest victory a man or woman can ever achieve, the victory over self. When the clock strikes 4 a.m. and you command yourself to rise, you are not merely waking your body, you are awakening your spirit. You are proving, in the simplest yet most profound way, that you are the master of your will, not its servant. Consider for a moment the forces that govern most lives: laziness, hesitation, procrastination, the craving for comfort. These are silent enemies, invisible but powerful, and they rob more dreams than failure itself. To lie in bed when the alarm calls you is to surrender to these enemies. It may seem small, but it is not. Every battle you lose against your weaker self becomes a pattern, and every pattern becomes a destiny. The world does not destroy most people. Weakness within does. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine that each morning, while the world still slumbers, you choose to rise. You feel the pull of the bed, but you refuse it. You feel the temptation to delay, but you resist it. That act, though it appears minor, becomes the cornerstone of your strength. Each day you do this, you engrave upon your character the truth: I command myself. I am the ruler of my will. This mastery is not about the hour itself. It is not that 4 a.m. contains some magical power. It is that you prove yourself capable of doing what most will not. You train your spirit to obey your higher purpose rather than your lower impulses. Discipline, once gained, spreads like fire. The one who disciplines his morning can discipline his words, his actions, his habits, and eventually his destiny. Think of the man who conquers empires, the woman who builds fortunes, the leader who commands influence. None of these victories are possible without first conquering the invisible empire within. And the most practical, daily battleground for this conquest is the morning hour. The decision to wake at 4 a.m. is symbolic. It is the declaration of war against weakness. When you rise at this hour, you feel the sting of sacrifice. You deny yourself the extra sleep, the easy comfort, the warmth of the blanket, and in that denial lies your growth. For every act of self-denial in service of purpose builds strength that cannot be purchased, borrowed, or gifted. It must be earned. Greatness has always demanded a price, and self-mastery is the first installment. Let me tell you something undeniable. He who cannot master himself will forever be mastered by circumstances. The undisciplined will always be a slave, slave to fear, slave to distraction, slave to the demands of others. But the disciplined man, the one who proves daily at 4 a.m. that he commands himself, becomes free. Free to choose his path, free to direct his time, free to mold his life as he wills. And so, my friends, when I say that waking at 4 a.m. will change your life, I am not speaking of hours on a clock. I am speaking of self-dominion. It is about building the muscle of the will until it becomes unbreakable. That single choice at the break of dawn creates a ripple effect that touches every decision, every opportunity, every challenge you will face. Remember this: the body will resist, the mind will protest, but the spirit is waiting to be summoned. If you rise, you feed the spirit. If you sleep, you feed the weakness. Mastery of self is not won in a day, but it is fought for every day. And each 4 a.m. is your battlefield. Win there, and the world itself will bend before you. There is a rare and precious hour, my friends, when the world belongs to you alone. It is the hour when distractions are silent, when the noise of society has not yet awakened, when the constant demands of life have not begun their assault. That sacred hour is 4 a.m., the hour of clarity. In the stillness of the early morning, the mind awakens differently. Thoughts are not scattered, burdens are not yet heavy, and your spirit is untouched by the weight of the day. This is not an ordinary time. It is a time when you can think clearly, without interruption, without opinions, without noise. For in silence, true power is born. Consider this: most men and women spend their days reacting. They answer calls, respond to messages, submit to deadlines, and run from one obligation to another. By nightfall, they are drained, not because they lacked intelligence or ambition, but because they gave their energy to the world before giving it to themselves. They were ruled by distraction before they ever had a chance to rule their own minds. But the one who rises at 4 a.m. steps into a world unclaimed. The phone does not ring. The inbox is silent. The streets are quiet. The demands of society are still asleep, and in that silence the mind becomes sharper, like a sword freshly forged in fire. It is in this hour that ideas are born, visions are formed, and plans for greatness are written. History has shown us that the greatest breakthroughs, the boldest plans, and the deepest insights came not from chaos, but from solitude. And solitude is no pure as it is at 4 a.m. The hour of clarity gives you space to listen, not to the world, but to your own inner voice. That voice, so often drowned by noise, whispers the direction of your destiny. Use this hour to think, to read, to write, to plan. Use it to set the tone for your day, because the one who owns the first hour owns the rest. If your morning begins with confusion, your day will be scattered. But if your morning begins with clarity, your day will carry order, direction, and purpose. Think of it this way: the mind is like a fertile field. At 4 a.m., the soil is untouched, ready to receive the seeds you plant. If you plant seeds of focus, gratitude, and determination, you will reap a harvest of productivity and success. But if you neglect this sacred field, weeds of distraction and negativity will overrun it before the day has even begun. The average person wakes with haste, rushing, already behind, already enslaved by time. But the disciplined one, the 4 a.m. riser, begins with calmness, begins with control. This is not merely an advantage, it is an edge. It is the difference between wandering through life blind and walking with vision. Do not underestimate the power of this clarity. A single idea formed in the silence of the morning can be worth more than years of unfocused effort. A single plan written at dawn can direct your entire destiny. The wealth of nations, the creation of empires, the rise of leaders, all have been born in the quiet moments where the mind was free to think without interference. And so I tell you, if you want to shape your life, guard this hour. Protect it as you would treasure, because it is treasure. Do not allow it to be stolen by sleep, by laziness, or by excuses. The morning belongs to the master, not the servant. Claim it, and it will reward you beyond measure. At 4 a.m., you are not just awake, you are alive in a way most people will never know. This is the hour of clarity, and he who commands clarity commands destiny. My friends, there is one quality that separates those who merely dream from those who truly achieve. That quality is mental toughness. Without it, talent is wasted, opportunity is ignored, and success slips through your fingers like sand. With it, nothing can defeat you, for the mind becomes your strongest weapon. And waking up at 4 a.m. every day is one of the most powerful ways to forge this toughness. Understand, this toughness is not built in comfort. It is not built in warm beds, in long hours of sleep, or in the lazy habits that most men and women accept as normal. Toughness is born in struggle, in sacrifice, in the repeated choice to do what is difficult, even when no one is watching. When you rise at 4 a.m., you step willingly into discomfort, and in doing so, you train your mind to obey strength instead of weakness. Each morning you battle against yourself. The body whispers, stay here, sleep more, rest longer. But the will commands, rise now. Discipline before comfort. Every time you obey that higher command, you harden your spirit. You prove that you are not a slave to the body's demands, but the master of them. And the one who can master himself in the quiet struggle of dawn can master himself in the louder battles of life. Mental toughness is not about being fearless. It is about moving forward despite fear. It is not about being unbreakable. It is about refusing to stay broken. The habit of waking at 4 a.m. is a daily rehearsal of this truth. Each time you rise, when it would be easier to surrender, you carve resilience into your very character. Consider the soldier in training, the athlete preparing for victory, the leader facing resistance. They do not grow strong by avoiding hardship. They grow strong by enduring it. The same is true for you. By building the discipline of rising early, you rehearse the art of perseverance. You make yourself ready for challenges greater than the morning alarm. The average person, when struck by difficulty, bends, breaks, or retreats. But the tough-minded individual, who has trained daily through sacrifice, stands firm. He does not run from obstacles. He crushes them. She does not fold under pressure. She thrives in it. And such toughness is not a gift, but a practice. Waking at 4 a.m. is that practice. There is a powerful truth. The body obeys the mind, and the mind obeys habit. When you create the habit of rising early, the mind learns that resistance does not win. You do. That knowledge becomes your shield against despair and your sword against failure. When difficulties arrive, you no longer ask, "Can I endure this?" You declare, "I have already trained for this." Think of what mental toughness truly gives you. It gives you patience when the reward is delayed. It gives you persistence when progress is slow. It gives you courage when fear whispers retreat. It gives you calmness when chaos surrounds you. And above all, it gives you certainty that no obstacle is greater than the will within you. The weak wait for motivation, but the tough rely on discipline. The weak collapse when life tests them, but the tough stand taller with every trial. This toughness does not come from books, from luck, or from empty wishes. It comes from daily battles, small battles like the decision to rise at 4 a.m. So remember, every morning you wake before the sun, you are not just beginning your day, you are building your spirit. You are sharpening the blade of the mind so that, when the world throws its storms against you, you do not bend, you stand. You endure, you win. Waking at 4 a.m. is not just an act of discipline. It is the daily training ground for unshakable mental toughness. And with that toughness, there is nothing life can place before you that you cannot conquer. My friends, one of the greatest complaints I hear from people everywhere is this: "I don't have enough time." They speak of their dreams, their goals, their ambitions, but always end with excuses. "I would start a business if I had the time. I would read more if I had the time. I would work on myself if I had the time." Yet time is not missing. It is only misused. And those who wake at 4 a.m. every day discover what others never will: the hidden hours of growth. Time is the most valuable currency you possess. Money can be lost and earned again. Opportunities can vanish and return, but once an hour is wasted, it is gone forever. Most people spend their mornings in bed, giving away the most precious hours of their lives to sleep, unaware that greatness was waiting for them in the early dawn. But those who rise at 4 a.m. claim those hours as their own, and in doing so, they gain an advantage the world cannot compete with. Think of what those hours give you. From 4 a.m. to sunrise, you hold time that belongs to no one but you. There are no meetings, no interruptions, no distractions. This is time for reading, for planning, for exercising, for writing, for visualizing, for learning. It is the time where you invest in yourself before the world makes its demands upon you. And this investment compounds. Just as money invested daily grows into wealth, so too does self-investment grow into wisdom, strength, and success. Consider this: if you spend 1 hour each morning studying your craft, within a year you will have devoted more than 365 hours to mastery. That is the equivalent of 9 full work weeks, 9 weeks of pure growth that the average person has slept through. Now imagine what 3 years, 5 years, or a decade of such hours could make of you. While others wonder why you have advanced so far, the truth will be simply you woke earlier, and you claimed the time they wasted. The hours of the early morning are not ordinary hours. They are golden hours, for they set the tone of your entire day. When you use them for growth, you begin the day in strength, and that strength carries into everything you touch. A man who invests the dawn in sharpening his mind and body does not stumble into his work, he attacks it. A woman who feeds her spirit before sunrise does not collapse under pressure, she rises above it. Most people believe that time is scarce, but the truth is that time is abundant for the one who creates it. Waking at 4 a.m. does not give you more hours in the day. It reveals the hours that were always there, waiting for the disciplined. The undisciplined sleep through them, but the wise turn them into stepping stones toward their destiny. Let me ask you this: how different would your life be if every morning you used those quiet hours to study the principles of success, to train your body, to write your goals, to build your vision, to master your craft? Would you remain the same after a year? Impossible. Growth would become inevitable, success unavoidable. And so, my friends, the difference between those who rise and those who remain stagnant is not talent or luck. It is how they use their time. The successful know that time, once claimed and directed, becomes the most powerful ally. The unsuccessful treat time as if it were endless, and so it slips through their fingers like water. Remember, this truth success is not built in grand moments, but in small, consistent investments of time. The habit of rising at 4 a.m. hands you those investments daily. Acclaim them, and you will grow beyond measure. Ignore them, and you will live forever in the shadow of what you could have been. The world is full of dreamers waiting for the right time, but those who wake at 4 a.m. do not wait for time. They create it. And in creating it, they create themselves anew. My friends, the world does not reward followers of circumstance. It rewards those who rise above circumstance and command it. Leadership is not granted by birth, nor is it given by chance. It is forged in discipline, in vision, and in the courage to act before others dare to move. And waking up at 4 a.m. every day is one of the surest ways to cultivate this spirit of leadership. Ask yourself, what is a leader? A leader is not merely someone in charge of others. A leader is the one who sets the tone, who creates momentum, who steps forward when others hesitate. A leader sees farther, moves faster, and inspires others by action rather than by words alone. And the simplest, most consistent act of leadership you can practice begins with leading your own life at the break of dawn. When you rise at 4 a.m., you demonstrate initiative. You do not wait for the world to decide the rhythm of your day. You decide it yourself. This act, repeated daily, conditions your mind to take charge, not to drift. And those who can lead themselves in the quietest hours will naturally lead others when the demands of life grow louder. Leadership begins not in the public eye, but in private discipline. Consider this truth: most people wake up already behind. They stumble into the day reacting to alarms, to schedules, to demands. They are servants of urgency, not masters of direction. But the individual who rises before the sun does not react, he creates. She does not stumble, she commands. By the time the world awakens, the leader has already advanced. And advancement is the very essence of leadership. The hours you claim in the morning allow you to set priorities, to think strategically, to move with purpose. This is not about business. It is about direction. The leader knows that the first hours of the day shape the remaining ones. He who begins with clarity, strength, and momentum will carry that into every interaction, every decision, every challenge. Leadership also requires influence, and influence is born of example. What greater example can you set than discipline, consistency, and control over yourself? When those around you see that you rise early, that you live by design rather than default, they cannot help but be influenced. They see strength, and strength inspires. They see control, and control commands respect. You need not preach discipline if you live it. Your life becomes the sermon. Think of history's great leaders. They were not men and women of comfort. They were individuals of sacrifice, of discipline, of vision. They were awake when others were asleep, both literally and figuratively. They saw farther into the future because they gave themselves the time and the clarity to see. They carried the weight of responsibility not because it was easy, but because they had built the inner strength to bear it. Such strength begins with the small act of commanding the morning. And leadership is not limited to nations, armies, or corporations. Leadership belongs in your home, in your career, in your personal destiny. To lead is to step forward, to set the example, to influence by action. And if you cannot lead yourself out of bed at 4 a.m., how can you hope to lead in the greater battles of life? My friends, the spirit of leadership is not something you wait for. It is something you build. Every early morning is a reminder that you are not here to follow blindly, but to lead boldly. By rising at 4 a.m., you declare, I move first. I decide my course. I set the pace. And the world, seeing your momentum, has no choice but to follow. Leadership is not about commanding others. It is about commanding yourself so powerfully that others are drawn to your example. Waking at 4 a.m. is that command, and when practiced daily, it transforms you into a leader, not of men alone, but of destiny itself. My friends, we have walked through 5 great truths. We have seen that waking up at 4 a.m. is not just a habit of the clock, it is the foundation of transformation. It gives you mastery over self, the highest victory any man or woman can achieve. It offers you the hour of clarity where silence sharpens your vision. It builds mental toughness, the armor that carries you through life's storms. It gives you time for growth, the hidden treasure that multiplies daily. And it awakens in you the spirit of leadership, for the one who leads himself before dawn will one day lead the world. But now the question stands before you, and only you can answer it. What will you do tomorrow morning? Will you remain as you are, surrendering those golden hours to sleep, to excuses, to wasted time? Or will you rise with purpose, seize the stillness of dawn, and claim the destiny waiting for you? Do not wait for the perfect moment, because it will never come. The perfect moment is the one you create. The world is full of dreamers who wait, but history is written by the doers who rise, while others are still asleep. So tonight, set your alarm. When it rings, rise without hesitation. Let that single act declare your freedom, your strength, your commitment. And when you do, remember that you are not just waking up, you are stepping into mastery, clarity, toughness, growth, and leadership. The path to greatness begins before the sun. The question is, will you be there to walk it?